for Black women, full-length emotional video story, uncut, renamed characters, gripping American tone. Some courtroom stories make headlines, but some crack open the human soul. Hey friend, before we dive in, I just want to check in. I hope you and your loved ones are safe, healthy, and finding peace wherever you are. What you're about to hear is more than a case. It's a reckoning. A moment when a single sentence silenced a courtroom and shook the heart of a woman who thought she'd buried her past forever. Let me take you there. It was a quiet Tuesday morning in family court, one of those days where the docket was full of routine disputes, custody hearings, truancy issues, minor infractions, nothing out of the ordinary, the kind of cases Judge Monica Hale could handle with her eyes closed. She'd presided over this courtroom for more than 2 decades, known across the city for her firm tone and unwavering sense of justice. Monica didn't tolerate nonsense, especially not from the young defendants who came through her courtroom thinking attitude would win over accountability. So when her bailiff announced all rise for the Honorable Judge Hale, the courtroom rose with respect and a little tension. Monica stepped in, wearing her signature black robe, posture erect, eyes sharp like twin searchlights. Every heel click echoed across the marble floor as she took her seat. That morning, she glanced briefly toward the defense table and paused because the girl sitting there didn't belong. Not in the way Monica was used to. Alana James, age 12, small frame swallowed by the oversized wooden chair, scuffed sneakers, jeans an inch too short, hoodie with one sleeve halfway torn. But it wasn't her appearance that froze the judge. It was her eyes. Eyes that looked like they'd seen more life than most grown men. A mixture of quiet defiance and something deeper, resignation. As if this wasn't her first time sitting in front of power, but maybe the first time she planned to fight it. The charge was simple: trespassing in a gated community. A homeowner had spotted her after dark and called the cops. She hadn't resisted, just looked lost. When questioned, she gave no explanation, no name, no story. Now here she was. Alana, Judge Hale began, flipping open the thin case file before her. How do you plead? Guilty or not guilty? The courtroom was still, dead still. Alana didn't move. She sat frozen for a moment, then slowly stood. You could almost hear the air leave the room as everyone leaned in, waiting. She looked directly at Monica and said, clear and strong, not guilty. The judge blinked, caught off guard not by the words, but by the steadiness behind them. Alana inhaled. Just as the court began to recover from the formal plea, she added, because you're my mom. Silence, not the awkward kind, the suffocating kind, the kind that presses into your ribs and steals your breath before you even realize you're holding it. You could have heard a pin drop. The prosecutor's papers stilled mid-turn. The stenographer's hands froze above her keys. Every spectator turned to look at Judge Hale, and the judge, she was paralyzed. Monica's hand stopped mid-note. Her body stiffened. Her throat tightened. Her mind spinning. Because in that moment, everything, her black robe, her gavel, her years of courtroom command, meant nothing. She was no longer the woman behind the bench. She was just a woman who had once made a choice, a woman whose past had just walked into her courtroom with scuffed shoes and a cracked voice. Alana's voice cracked, but she didn't waver. You gave me away, she said, and now you don't even recognize me. Monica swallowed hard. Her lips parted, searching for something to say. Anything. But nothing came, not a single word. And her silence, it screamed louder than any gavel ever had. A few days earlier, Alana had been picked up walking alone through a gated neighborhood after dark. Security lights flickered overhead. Houses stood still. The glow of porch lights framed her small body and her face tired and unreadable. A homeowner called her suspicious. The cops arrived. She didn't resist, didn't speak. She clutched her old backpack like a life vest and said she had no place to go. That night, she slept in juvenile holding, and now she stood in court, face to face with the woman who brought her into the world. The prosecutor, tall and polished, cleared his throat and began his argument. "Your Honor," he said crisply, "this is not Miss Alana's first incident. She's been reported previously for trespassing and loitering. No charges were filed then, but this shows a pattern of disregard for the law." He snapped the folder shut. "It's time she faced consequences," the courtroom murmured. But Alana didn't flinch. Then came her public defender, an overworked but quietly compassionate woman named Tamara Quinn. She rose slowly. Her voice didn't boom, but it resonated. "Your Honor," she began, "my client is 12. She has no home, no family, no one to call, no place to go." Tamara paused. Her hand rested gently on Alana's shoulder. She wasn't trespassing to cause harm. She was looking for somewhere safe. She turned her gaze toward the judge. What this girl needs isn't punishment, it's compassion. It's someone to ask why she was there, not just label her for it. Monica sat still, too still, because the storm wasn't on the other side of the bench. It was inside her, and that sentence, "You're my mom," was still rattling through her bones. She finally spoke, but her words came out cold. "I don't know what you're talking about." Too fast, too sharp, too defensive. The gallery murmured again. A reporter whispered into a phone. Another leaned to a colleague. Did she just deny it? Monica's composure was unraveling. Across the room, the assigned social worker, Ms. Gina Wallace, sat watching. She'd seen this before, not this exact drama, but the ache. The ache of children still clinging to a hope they had no business holding on to. She looked at Alana, rigid in her seat, fists clenched, eyes dry but glinting. Then she looked at the judge, and in her eyes, just for a second, she saw something. Fear. Judge Hale slammed her gavel. "Order in the courtroom!" But the tremor in her voice made the command feel hollow. The silence returned, and underneath it, the whole room knew. This wasn't about law anymore. This was about truth. And the truth had just stood up and called her mother. A deep, emotional continuation for the channel Black Women. No scenes cut, characters renamed, expanded internal emotion, tone, adult, cinematic, American voice for 30 to 40s audience. The courtroom felt colder now, not because of the air conditioning, because of the silence. A silence thick enough to press on your ribs, the kind that says something has broken, something sacred, something buried. Alana James sat back down slowly, her fingers still gripping the table as if it were the only thing keeping her from floating away. Her eyes never left Judge Monica Hale, and though she looked like a child, her stare, it was the gaze of a lifetime of waiting. Monica didn't move, didn't blink. She kept her hand on the case file, staring at it like the printed words could somehow drown out the ones she'd just heard spoken aloud. "You gave me away, and now you don't even recognize me." The prosecutor straightened his tie and tried to reclaim control of the room. "Your Honor, despite the disruption, I believe we still have a clear case. Miss James has been found in neighborhoods where she does not belong, without supervision and without lawful cause. This is about law and structure." The words sounded flat now, sterile, out of place. He continued, trying to ignore the elephant now sitting in the middle of the courtroom. "It's not about emotional theatrics. It's about discipline and accountability." But then Tamara Quinn, Alana's public defender, stood again. Her voice didn't need to be loud to be heard. "Your Honor, if we're going to speak about structure, let's talk about the one this child has never had." She looked back at Alana gently, like she wasn't speaking to a case file, but to a person. She's been in and out of foster homes since she was an infant, some safe, some not. She's been passed around like a suitcase, and yet she's here today, still standing, still hoping. Tamara turned and faced the bench again. And today, for the first time, she said something out loud that most kids like her never get to say. She named her pain, and she named who it belongs to. The room went still again. Monica's jaw locked. Her fingers curled slightly around the edge of the bench. From the gallery, Gina Wallace, the social worker, studied Monica's face. She saw the tightness in her shoulders, the stillness that only comes from holding something heavy, like regret. Gina had seen it in other parents who had given up children, but never on a bench. Monica finally opened her mouth. "This isn't real," she muttered under her breath. But even she didn't believe it. Her voice, usually so crisp, so clean, was beginning to crack. And as she reached for her pen, her hand trembled. She dropped it. Then from across the courtroom, Alana stood again. Her voice this time softer, but filled with more truth than the law could ever carry. "I've been through 12 foster homes," she said. "Some were kind, some weren't. And every time I packed my stuff, I thought maybe this time, maybe this family will stay." Her lips trembled, but she didn't stop. "Maybe my real mom will finally come for me." Gasps echoed quietly in the back rows. No one moved. No one dared breathe. Alana's hands clenched tightly. "But you didn't come. You didn't even try." Monica's throat tightened. She gripped the arms of her chair like they might hold her together, but inside, she was splitting apart. Alana took one step forward, and in the quietest voice, she asked the loudest question. "Why? Why did you leave me? Was I not enough?" Monica couldn't answer, because there was no answer that could undo what had already been done. The courtroom remained frozen. Even the court reporter had stopped typing. Then Alana whispered, "I just wanted you to try. Just once." Monica's hand trembled. Her lips parted. Still, nothing came out. For someone who had delivered 1,000 verdicts, she had no words. Slowly, Alana returned to her seat. Her body slumped, exhausted not from drama, but from finally saying what she'd carried alone her whole life. The room wasn't just still. It was grieving, because sometimes the truth is heavy enough to make the air itself mourn. Behind the scenes, Gina stepped out. She couldn't breathe, because she knew what came next might define the rest of Alana's life. Meanwhile, Monica sat alone in her chambers, the thick oak door shut behind her. And for the first time in years, her silence wasn't power, it was shame. She leaned forward on her desk, gripping the edge like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. She heard Alana's voice again. "Was I not worth it? I just wanted you to try." And suddenly, she wasn't Judge Hale anymore. She was 18 again, in her father's living room, pregnant, terrified, and being told by her parents, "You've ruined your future. Give her up. Forget this ever happened." She remembered signing the papers, the tiny baby hand wrapping around her finger before being pulled away. She had never forgotten that feeling, no matter how hard she'd buried it. And now, 12 years later, that same hand was knocking at her door, asking her to choose again. This time, there would be no bench to hide behind, no robe to shield the truth. Just a woman and a daughter. The reckoning deepens, no scenes cut. Rename characters, emotional, cinematic, mature American voice, channel Black women. Back in Judge Monica Hale's chambers, the silence was a living thing, thick, heavy, judgmental. She sat alone, her back to the window, watching her own reflection in the darkened glass. But what stared back wasn't the judge, not the woman who held power in her gavel and control in her voice. What stared back was a scared, tired woman trying not to collapse under the weight of her own choices. Her thoughts weren't here. They were 12 years ago. She remembered the moment too well. Her father standing over her, voice like thunder, "You're throwing your life away." Her mother, soft but afraid, whispered, "This is for the best, Monica. She'll have a better life." And Monica, 18, pregnant, terrified, signed the paper. She let go of her daughter, let go of that tiny hand, let go of herself. But Alana hadn't let go. Not really. And now the girl she abandoned had grown into someone too brave to stay silent. A knock broke the silence. Software measured. Monica didn't answer. She didn't want company. She didn't want witnesses. She didn't want to face what she already knew. But the knock came again, louder this time. "Come in," she finally said, her voice dry. The door creaked open, and in stepped Gina Wallace, the social worker, in her hand a slim folder, her expression calm but firm, like a woman who had walked into too many broken rooms and still believed in healing. "Judge Hale," she said gently, "do you have a moment?" Monica nodded stiffly. "Of course." Gina sat, placing the folder on the desk, but she didn't open it, not yet. Instead, she folded her hands, looked Monica square in the eye, and said, "It's about Alana." Monica's jaw tightened. "I don't know what else I can say right now." "I'm not here for you to say something," Gina replied softly. "I'm here to show you something." She opened the folder and slid it forward. Inside were drawings, hundreds of them, some messy, some careful, all in crayon, charcoal, pencil, on scraps of paper, the backs of homework, napkins. Every single one showed the same thing. A mother, a woman, arms outstretched, face gentle, holding a child close. In some drawings, the mother had no face. In others, she smiled with eyes that Alana had invented because she didn't know what Monica looked like, but she kept drawing her anyway. Monica's hands trembled. She reached out. She touched a drawing, a crude one, just a woman's figure and a stick figure child, both with hearts on their chests. She picked up another, more detailed. A courtroom. A woman in robes stepping down from the bench, kneeling in front of a girl. In the corner, Alana had written in pencil, "Maybe one day she'll see me." Monica covered her mouth. Her voice cracked, whispering, "She doesn't even know what I look like." Gina's voice was low, "But she's never stopped imagining you." The words struck like a blade, and then Gina leaned in. "You've spent your life delivering justice for strangers. But what about her? She's waited 12 years to be seen, not as a file, not as a case, but as your child." Monica looked away. "I made my choice," she said, almost to herself. "I gave her up so she could have a better life." Gina didn't flinch, and she ended up in group homes and courtrooms. That better life, it never came. The silence wrapped around them again, but this time Monica didn't fight it. Gina stood slowly. "She found you, Judge. Somehow she found you. That's a gift not many kids get. She's still willing to hear from you, but she won't wait forever." And with that, Gina walked to the door, paused, then said, "You can keep hiding behind that robe, or you can step out from behind it and finally be what she needs." The door closed behind her, and Monica was alone again. But not really, because Alana's drawings were everywhere now, and so was the truth. She reached for one last picture, a faceless mother, kneeling, arms open, and a child standing in front of her with the words, "I'm waiting." Monica's fingers shook. Her walls, the ones she'd spent her whole life building, were crumbling. And beneath them was something terrifying, something redemptive, something real. She stood slowly. She wasn't sure what would come next, but for the first time, she wasn't thinking about the court schedule. She was thinking about her daughter, not as a mistake, not as a ghost, but as a girl with drawings, with hope, and with a voice. The courtroom confrontation that stops time, full-length, uncut, renamed characters, deep emotional tone for Black Women Channel. The courtroom felt like a loaded gun, still, tense, waiting. It had been hours since the last hearing, but Judge Monica Hale was still seated behind the bench, robe draped over her shoulders like a weight instead of armor. She had returned from her chambers changed, but no one could see it yet, because the truth wasn't just knocking anymore. It was walking toward her. Alana James stood once more at the defendant's table. Only this time, she didn't look like a girl on trial. She looked like a soul demanding to be seen. The air was thin. Everyone could feel it, the moment before impact. And then Alana spoke. "If you don't want me," her voice cracked, but she kept going. "Then just say it. Right here, right now, say you don't want me." A murmur rolled through the courtroom, quickly silenced, because no one, not even the reporters, wanted to miss a single breath. Alana stepped forward, her hands trembling, but her voice growing stronger. "But if you ever thought about me, if you ever looked for me in your mind or your heart, then why didn't you come?" Her voice slashed through the air like truth with a jagged edge. "Why didn't you try? Do you know what it feels like to be 12 and still believe your mom is coming when everyone else has stopped believing in anything? Do you have any idea what that does to a kid?" Monica's hand moved, just slightly, a twitch in the fingers, a tremble in her jaw, but still no words. Alana's voice wavered, but she didn't sit. "You had a choice, and you chose to walk away. I've spent my whole life wondering if I was the reason." The audience was frozen. Even the toughest court reporters had dropped their pens. "I'm not asking you to be perfect," Alana said. "I'm not asking for a parade or a headline. I'm just asking for the truth." Judge Monica Hale stared down at her, and in that moment, the woman who had sentenced hundreds was the one on trial, not for a crime, but for a wound. From the back row, Gina Wallace watched, her heart caught in her throat, because she knew this was the moment, the one where healing could begin or disappear forever. The courtroom held its breath, and finally, Monica stood, not like a judge, not with her robe, but like a woman stripped bare, like a mother facing her reflection. Her voice came out quiet at first. "I was wrong." Silence. "I was scared." She swallowed hard. "I was 18, and everyone told me I would ruin your life, that I couldn't do it, that I wasn't ready." Tears welled in her eyes, but her voice only grew steadier. "So I listened to them. I gave you up. And then I tried to bury it." She shook her head, slowly, painfully. "But I never stopped thinking about you." The crowd watched in stunned silence. The judge had cracked, and underneath the woman of steel was someone real, someone flawed, someone finally speaking. Monica took a breath that seemed to shake the walls. "I thought staying away was protecting you, but all I did was protect myself from guilt, from shame, from the truth." She looked at Alana directly now. "You were never the problem. You were never not enough. I was the one who ran." Alana's lips parted, her tears finally broke, but still she stood strong. Monica wiped her face, and then said the words the courtroom had waited for. "If you can forgive me, I want to try to be what I should have been all along." Alana blinked, her voice a whisper. "I just wanted you to say it." And then the courtroom exploded in quiet tears and silent reverence. From the gallery, Gina exhaled, somewhere between heartbreak and hope. Outside, the sky was still, but inside, something had shifted forever. A mother had finally claimed her daughter, not just in biology, but in truth. The beginning of healing, full length, no cuts, all renamed characters, cinematic storytelling for the Black Women Channel. The courtroom lights had long dimmed, the crowd was gone, the voices had quieted, but something still lingered in the air, like the hush after a storm. Alana James and Judge Monica Hale, mother and daughter, stood at the edge of something new, not yet whole, not yet healed, but possible. Outside the courthouse, the afternoon sun fell in soft streaks across the marble steps. Alana walked ahead, small, brave, still hurting. Monica followed, slower, unsure but present. "Alana," she called out gently. The girl turned cautiously. Monica stepped closer, her voice trembling. "I want to try. I know I can't undo anything, but I want to show up, if you'll let me." Alana stared at her, silent, searching. Then a slow, almost imperceptible nod, and that was enough. In the weeks that followed, Monica did what she'd never done before. She showed up, not as a judge, not as a name on court files, but as a mother. She filed the paperwork to gain legal guardianship of Alana. She met with Gina every week. She rearranged her court schedule. She started listening. She started learning. And most importantly, she stopped hiding. Their first real outing was small. A Saturday morning at a local diner, Monica nervously stirring cream into her coffee. Alana sipping a milkshake, eyes flicking between the window and her mother. "You like chocolate?" Monica asked, unsure. Alana gave a small smirk. "Strawberry's better." Monica nodded. "Strawberry it is." It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. A few weeks later, Alana had her first ever art showcase, held at the local community center. Dozens of people gathered to see the works of foster youth across the city. But one corner belonged to her. The walls were filled with drawings of mothers, some bright, some dark, some hopeful, some hurt. Each one told a piece of her story. Each one held Monica's face, imagined 1,000 ways, until now. That afternoon, Monica stood at the edge of the room, her hands clenched, her throat tight. Then Alana walked over and said, "I made this one for you." She pointed to a painting unlike the others, a mother holding her daughter in a field of yellow, warm sunlight bathing their faces, two hearts drawn on their joined hands. "You painted this for me?" Monica asked, stunned. Alana nodded. "I hoped one day you'd show up." Monica's tears spilled. "I should have come sooner." Alana stepped forward and hugged her. The room paused. Even the other families, the guests, the social workers, they all felt it. The hush of something sacred. The quiet click of two lives locking into place. That night, Monica sat beside Alana on a bench outside the center. They didn't say much, just breathed, just sat. Alana leaned her head on Monica's shoulder, and Monica rested her hand on Alana's, then whispered, "You've always been my daughter. You always will be." In the weeks that followed, they kept building. Strawberry milkshakes, old movies, arguments over messy rooms, laughter during burnt pancakes, and sometimes silence when words were too heavy. They were writing something new, not perfect, but real. One day, Monica found a new drawing on the fridge. No courtroom, no tears, just two stick figures holding hands under a tree. The caption read, "Home." "Let's talk about this." Who was right? Who was wrong? Monica Hale was wrong. She abandoned her daughter out of fear and pressure, but she owned it. She didn't excuse it. She showed up to make it right. Alana James was right. She told the truth. She stood in a courtroom and asked for what every child deserves: acknowledgement and a reason why. Society often makes girls like Alana invisible, but she refused to disappear. Why did they act the way they did? Monica was told she'd ruin her life by keeping her child, so she gave in to fear, to shame, to silence. But Alana, she chose the opposite. She chose voice. She chose to speak, not just for herself, but for every girl who's ever sat alone wondering, was I worth keeping? That love doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful, that it's never too late to tell the truth, and that sometimes forgiveness is the bravest kind of justice. If this story moved you, tap that like button. Tell us in the comments, who do you relate to more, Monica or Alana? And make sure you subscribe to Black Women for more stories of truth, healing, and unstoppable love. Because some voices were never meant to be silenced, and this channel is here to help you find your own.